Every role's a goal, guys. I was so bored for the majority of this book. Here we go. This is Karma. It kind of feels like a cross between Red Rising and Nevernight. All of them are productive because they're sequels. I'm not that invested. Good morning, no actually good afternoon my guys. Welcome to a very chill start to week 3 of the Spookoplathon on my end. I only got back from Manchester at like 1:45, 2 a.m. last night. We went to see Blink 182, and because of that I only really got ready and started my day at 11, and my week has already been slightly derailed. I planned to edit all day and sprint this evening, but there's actually a community meeting happening at 7 p.m. tonight to discuss a bit of like, we have some scrubland behind our house and it goes like in between the streets, and recently we found out that there is a plan to put housing on there. Now I live in quite a small town, so the infrastructure of the town already cannot support the residents that we have, so building more houses when there are multiple new house developments already ongoing all around the outskirts of town makes very little sense to a lot of people. So there is a petition, like a campaign, to have it turned into a green space that all of the community can enjoy instead. So I'm going to a meeting for more information on how we can make that a reality and to campaign against houses going on there, which means that I will not be sprinting tonight, which was my original plan. I get kind of frustrated a little bit when my plans are derailed because I plan out most of my content, most of my sprints weeks in advance. I normally do it at the beginning of the month so that when it comes to the time of actually doing things, like I can just get on with doing it, because I've already made the plans, I've already made the decisions, and I can focus my attention on actually like getting the shit done. So because of that I have rearranged my plans a little bit. I'm going to be doing some sprints throughout this afternoon as well. I feel like I didn't get enough sleep last night because when I got home I needed like a good hour and a half for my brain to like come down to a position where I could actually sleep. So I feel like a slow, cozy day. Can you stop it please? She hasn't had her morning cuddles. And when I tell you, like, she is an asshole when she doesn't have her morning cuddles, this is what I mean. She's been lying on the couch crying while I've been sat at my desk because I haven't sat with her for half an hour this morning and cuddled her while I read my book and drank my coffee, which I'm only just getting to at like 12:15. But yeah, I think a cozy reading day will very much be appreciated. I am a little bit nervous about going to this meeting as well. Getting involved in the community, going to local events and things like that is not my norm. It's not something I've done before. But I have 170 pages left of my 7th book of the Spookoplathon, which is For You and Only You by Caroline Kepnes. So hopefully with me doing sprints in the daytime there is potential for me to finish this either tonight, and if not I would say definitely tomorrow. I'm on page, it's like 430 pages long, and I'm currently on page 260 with me being out all day yesterday. I didn't read very much. If you are unfamiliar with the Joe Goldberg books by Caroline Kepnes, they are a series of psychological thrillers, psychological case studies almost, following a guy called Joe Goldberg who is a stalker. Now the interesting thing about this series is that you are inside of his head and the whole thing is told in second person, so he's narrating it almost to his victims. It's like, you cross the street and get into a cab, I know that you're thinking about me. Like, that's the kind of narration style we're going with here. Joe Goldberg seems outwardly, like to the people around him, like a generally like decent stand-up guy. Like, he's your nerdy boy next door, thoughtful, cares about you, all that jazz, except he actually isn't. And the first book kicks off when he works at a bookstore and a girl walks in and he becomes infatuated with her and starts to stalk her. So the series does progress from there. My kind of gripe with this series at the minute is that it feels very episodic, and for a series I want more connecting threads. Like, I want more of a build-up of story. I want there to be consequences of Joe's actions in the last books, and I want the tension to rise, whereas every book feels like a reset. Like, it feels like we start almost back at the beginning, and I thought the first 2 books were amazing, and then from book 3 it seems like let's just put Joe in a new situation with new people, start him off again, and kind of do that with every book. And in every book, what happened in books before does kind of crop up and cause problems for him at some point, but I don't ever feel like there's going to be lasting consequences. Like, I don't feel like we're getting a build-up of anything in here, like a build-up of plot. I feel like it's just like adds a bit of tension and kind of gets swept under the rug. So I do enjoy it, but I thought that Joe, like with every book, Joe gets less and less likable, because the interesting thing about these books for me was how how because you're in Joe's head, you see his rationalizations, and that makes you as the reader more likely to be on his side, even though he's doing terrible things. And I feel like psychologically, that's a really interesting perspective to narrate a book from, and an interesting perspective to put the reader in. I feel like with every book, the only progression of character we're getting is that he is less bothered with rationalizing his actions. Before, like to start off with, it felt like he was genuinely guilty, like genuinely felt bad for what he was doing, and like he truly didn't mean to, and you felt like he was compelled to do these things. Whereas now it feels like his actions are his go-to response for any situation that kind of inconveniences him, and he rationalizes it as like, oh well, like I had to do that, so he doesn't even feel bad about it anymore like he used to. And another way that like conflicted emotions come into this is like some of the people that are his victims are genuinely like bad people, and you kind of get that satisfaction of being like, because in the real world, like we can't take action on genuinely bad people, and Joe does that for us, and you get like a little bit of satisfaction and end up on his side even more kind of because of that. So I do really like these books. I will probably continue to read them, but it does feel like Caroline Kepnes is just continuing to write them for the sake of writing them, as opposed to having any kind of clear end goal in sight. And I've said this with series before, the journey is definitely more important than the destination, but I have to know that you as an author have a destination in mind, and we're not just trucking along for the sake of trucking along throughout a series. So that's where I'm at. I am still thinking about starting an audiobook. If I roll doubles during sprints today, then I may start an audio, although I don't know, I haven't decided what that would be right now. And aside from that, my only goal is to get to the next roll. Every roll's a goal, guys. Wow. I like that. It's a little bit later than I anticipated, but I picked up this toffee sticky chai from Bird and Blend yesterday because the chai that I use is from T2, but the T2 doesn't exist in the UK anymore. You have to order from Australia. So I wanted to see if I could find something that I liked to replace the chai that I have when it runs out. And this one, I wanted to try the sticky one especially because I'm pretty sure that it has like, yeah, it has honey in it, which I think is what makes it sticky. I am a little bit nervous though because I like black tea when it comes to chai, and this is it rooibos? Is that how you say it? I know it translates to red bush, which ain't my favorite, but we'll see how it goes. So I finally just finished For You and Only You by Caroline Kepnes, and I gave it a 3. It was very almost a 2. The only thing that really saves this book for me is the writing style. I really like Caroline Kepnes' writing style, and I think that she builds a good atmosphere. She controls the pace of the book very well. I like the repetitiveness of her writing in terms of like calling back to Easter eggs throughout the book, and also the way that she writes anxiety and builds anxiety very well when you're in Joe's head. I also feel that she has like Joe's narrative spot on. The weak part of this book for me was the plot. Like I was so bored for the majority of this book because it wasn't doing anything new at all. Like there was nothing particularly different about this book than to all of the Joe books that I've read before, and there was technically some differences. Like it didn't end the way that I necessarily expected it to, but I just don't care because I'm so, for a thriller, like the first book I couldn't put down. The second book, I loved the direction that Caroline Kepnes took it in. Books 3 and 4, I just feel like I'm over it. Like I just don't feel like there's enough progression in this series for me to truly enjoy it the way that I enjoyed book 1 and 2. I feel like I might revisit the rating on this maybe tomorrow morning and potentially bring it down to a 2. I have done that with The Kiss Curse by Erin Sterling, by the way, which I read in week 1. The more that I think about that book, the more I think like I didn't love it. Like I gave it a 3, and a 3 for me means I liked it, but I'm more in the park of it was fine. And I feel like the same with this, and this necessarily isn't a 2-star book if it was read on its own, but I think for me, with this being the 4th book in a series and expectations that I have for book 4 in a series where I gave book 1 and 2 5 stars, I feel like it's a 2-star book in comparison, or a 3-star book in comparison to books 1 and 2 in the series. So yeah, I'm sad about that. I feel like I am still going to continue reading the Joe Goldberg books. I feel like I would like her to wrap it up with book 5. I don't know if she has a book 5 planned. The way that she's writing them, I feel like she's just writing them because she can and will continue to write them. But if there is a book 5, I feel like I'm going to read it. But I would like her to end this series now and bring us to a conclusive end. I kind of want a build up of everything that's happened so far and Joe having to deal with all of the consequences of his actions. The end of this book leads me to believe that there could be something that follows into book 5 that ties into this book, but I thought that about book 2, and in book 3 we just started like a whole new story. So who knows. It is quite late actually, because I did get up so late today. I normally would be in bed by now. It's 11:30, but I've stayed up to finish my book. I am feeling quite tired and I am going to go to bed very soon though. But before I do that, I'm gonna roll and find out what the prompt is for roll number 8. We ended over here last time on Stabby, and I'm pretty sure that this is roll number 8. And it is 7. Oh no! I knew this was gonna happen. I've landed on Black Cat. So in case you are unaware why landing on Black Cat is such a nightmare for me right now, in week 1 I read 2 books that had cats either in the story or on the cover accidentally, and I said multiple times when I was reading those books that I felt like I was exhausting my possibilities for Black Cat, and because of that I knew I was going to land on Black Cat at some point throughout this readathon. So here we go. This is karma. I have no idea what I'm going to pick for this, so I'm going to have to hunt around and see if I can find. The prompt is a cat on the cover, like a type of cat on the cover or in the title, or like a cat as part of the plot or a catalyst for the plot, just cats in some way involved in the cover or the synopsis of the book. But I can't think of a single thing off the top of my head, so have a look around. I'll start looking with my like core TBR, although I'm pretty sure there isn't anything, and then after that I'll see if I have any spooky books with cats on. So it's been a good 5 minutes. Not spooky, but I have found 1 book with a cat on so far. So I'm gonna go upstairs, because I haven't been up there yet, and look at my like book of the month thriller collection, see if there's anything in there like of the spooky genre. But if not, I have a manga. So I can confirm that I did not find any thrillers that had cats on the covers or mentioned cats in the synopses, and actually that's probably a good thing, because I feel like if I read a thriller synopsis that had a cat in the synopsis, I feel like I would be very worried that that cat was going to die. So I did find a fantasy that had jaguars on, and I also found a romance that had tigers on. But I think in the spirit of it being spooky season and me wanting to skew as spooky as possible with all of my reads, I'm gonna go for I Had That Same Dream Again by Yoru Sumino, which you might find is weird considering I was just talking about spooky reads, and this is a like YA contemporary manga. But if I can't read a spooky book to fulfill the prompt, this is the quickest book I'm going to be able to read because it's manga. I've actually been wanting to read this for quite some time. This is the same author as I Want to Eat Your Pancreas, which is once again a YA contemporary manga. I don't read YA contemporary anymore, like almost never. But I really like it in a manga or graphic novel format. I love Heartstopper, I love Dreaming Sun, I love I Want to Eat Your Pancreas, I love Orange. And the reason why I picked this up is because I really liked I Want to Eat Your Pancreas. This one, I like really sad and like hard-hitting contemporary stories in manga and comic form as well. But this one is, it says the long road to happiness. A high schooler who hurts herself, a young woman spurned by society, and an old woman spending her twilight years in quiet solitude. And it is about a girl in grade school who is getting to know these 3 different people, and she's trying to figure out like the key to happiness, like what happiness is, what happy looks like, to hopefully like manifest that in her own life. That's pretty much all I know about it. I Want to Eat Your Pancreas has a much more dramatic synopsis, I feel, than this, but there's a very dramatic plot twist in I Want to Eat Your Pancreas, so I'm actually a little bit scared that I'm going to go into this expecting it to be pretty chill and get whiplash from a plot twist like I did when I read I Want to Eat Your Pancreas. This has worked out well actually, because I'll probably finish this tomorrow, and I wanted to pick a book that I would be finished with before Thursday so that I can roll again before I go away. There's been guys digging and drilling on the footpath outside of my house literally all day, and I am losing. It's 1:20 now. It's been going on since like 9:30 and I'm losing it. Guys, I am losing it. I'm just trying to edit the Q&A video that will never end. So
I thought that we were on the same page the entire way through.
What are we crying for?
Completed it, and then you
What are
lost
we crying for?
no way to contact you for 48 hours. I had to keep on checking your Instagram account.
So I'm currently doing public Spookoplathon sprints on my channel. We're in the final sprint now. I started a little bit early, so we're wrapping up a little bit early. And you know what? I think I might like starting at 6 instead of 7. But I have just finished I Had That Same Dream Again by Yoru Sumino. I read like a quarter of this morning, and I've read the rest in sprints today. And I really like this. I was so right about this having a twist. And when I started, because it's very unassuming as you're going through it, you're like, okay, but what is the point of this? And then when I got it, I was like, this is the point of this, and I really liked that. So wind it back, because I haven't given you a progress update on this one. This one is about a girl who has been given a project at school, and that is to give her answer to what is the meaning of happiness. Like, what does happiness mean to you? And she's a girl who, she's very smart, she reads a lot of books, she likes to learn, but she's not very good with people, and she doesn't have many friends. So every day after school she goes to visit her friends, and one of these is a woman that's been shunned by society, one's an old lady that lives by herself, and one is a teenager that is hurting herself. Content warnings in here for self-harm, especially cutting. Obviously it's a manga, so there's physical depictions as well, and also for suicidal thoughts and like attempted suicide. But she goes to these people every day, she hangs out with them, she plays games with them, and because she's doing this project, she also asks them the meaning of happiness. Meanwhile, there's something going on at her school. There's a boy that she sits next to that he likes to draw, but everyone kind of picks on him for it, so he hides his talent, and she's getting more and more frustrated with him because she wants him to kind of be brave and be proud of who he is, and that like kind of side plot is running alongside there as well. It is like with contemporary manga, this is the reason why I like it. It does have some hard-hitting moments. I almost teared up at the end. I did give it 4 stars overall, because I was just really touched by it. And like I said, the story was very unassuming. It was kind of just meandering along for a while, but when I got the point, it really came together. This reminded me a lot of Orange in some regards, and also I do see the similarity between this and Yoru Sumino's other manga that I've read, which is I Want to Eat Your Pancreas. Now, I know that Yoru Sumino writes a lot of light novels. I've never read a light novel before, so I wouldn't really know what to expect from one, but if you could recommend me a light novel, or maybe like, do you think I should give them a try? I just would worry that they would be kind of basic because they're so short, but if you think I might like light novels, I would like to pick up some more Yoru Sumino's work, because I don't think she's written any more manga that I haven't read, at least that I'm aware of. I don't know whether she's currently written any in Japanese that have yet to be translated, so let me know that as well if you do know. But yeah, this was probably my second favorite book of the month after The Last House on Needless Street. Not at all spooky. Actually, I'm not going to say anything. It's not spooky, but it has elements to it. That's all I'm going to say. But on that note, I'm very eager, I'm very excited because I get to roll again so soon. So it's time for roll number 9. I gotta be honest, I don't really want to land on the yellows. I'm not really feeling them right now. However, where we are on the board, I feel like a yellow is inevitable. So we'll see what happens. I mean, rather than a yellow than something potentially worse, you know what I mean? So roll number 9, I think we're on. 10. Oh. That is Jigsaw, so I got my wish. We did indeed skip the yellows. I was prepared for this to be harder. I didn't think that I had anything on my TBR that fit the prompt, because the Jigsaw prompt is a book that has games, trials, or a tournament, or like centers on a game. Like, I don't know, the Queen's Gambit focuses on chess. But I did remember that Meg, who is one of my patrons, I watched her TBR video and she put this book in for the Jigsaw prompt. So I confirmed with the lovely sprinters, and they did say that this book does indeed have trials. There's challenges to complete, and that is Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. Now, I had a feeling this was going to happen, because if you guys saw the B-roll, I started an audiobook today. I decided to go with the new Buffy one, Slayers, because I wanted to take Brie for a walk and I had nothing to listen to. So I put that on, and I thought, I bet as soon as I start this audio, I'll end up picking Gideon for a prompt. And I thought I was safe because I've been past Mary Shelley, which I was thinking about putting Gideon in for if I landed on it, but apparently not. So I am going to be listening along to the audio with this one. I don't really know much about it apart from that it is a sci-fi fantasy and it is lesbian necromancers in space. That is all I've ever heard about it. I believe in terms of writing, it is quite dense and it is very confusing up until the point where it's not. So I was thinking about rolling again to pick a book to read alongside this because I am going to go the audio route with this one, but I don't think I'm just going to be listening to the audio of this. I think I'm going to be reading along at the same time, especially at the beginning, because I have heard it's dense and because I have heard it's confusing. I don't feel like me just listening along exclusively without reading at the same time is going to cut it. I feel like that's going to end up being very confusing. Wish me luck with this one, guys. This is one of those series that I've always assumed that I'm really going to love, so I've put it off for a long time. This was my Patreon pick for, I think, was this one for September, and this was Ina's pick, so thank you very much, Ina, for making me finally read this one. And how long is it? 444 pages, so not too bad. So yeah, I've got 20 minutes left of the final sprint, so I'll see how much of a dent I can make in this, but to be honest, I don't think it's going to be too much, especially trying to get to grips like with a brand new book.
Pull me in, draw me close. I wanna hear your heartbeat. I wanna feel your my cheek. Pull me in, draw me close. I wanna hear your
We've reached that time of year where it is dark in the morning. It looks like 6 p.m. right now, but I swear like it's not even 9 a.m. Like it's morning. And today is the day that we go on holiday. As you can see, I'm very prepared. I'm getting myself ready. But I wanted to let you guys know how I'm doing with Gideon because I'm coming along quite well. Okay, I'm 186 pages in. I just got up to the start of Act 3 and I think there's 5 acts in total, the next one being about 100 pages. I'm really enjoying this. As soon as I started it, it reminded me a lot of Red Rising, and the more I got into it, it kind of feels like a cross between Red Rising and Nevernight. So we have the kind of gloomy atmosphere and dark humor of Nevernight mixed with the quite formal tone and complex unique world building of Red Rising. And as you know, those are 2 of my favorite series, so it's already a great time. I can't say whether I would be loving it so much without the audio. The audio narration is on point. Like, it is so good. And as soon as I started this, like as soon as I started listening to the audio, it very quickly reminded me of Nevernight. So I looked into it because I recognized the narrator's name as well, and she is actually one of the narrators who worked on Iron Gold and Dark Age, which are the two Red Rising books that are like multi-perspective full cast. So that kind of could be why I'm getting the Red Rising vibe from it. But in terms of the plot, okay, I understand why people get confused by this. I don't feel like I'm overly confused. I don't have a full understanding of the world, but I feel like I have a good enough grasp of kind of what's going on to follow the story. But this is set in a world, there's like different houses of necromancers from 1 to 9, I think. And Gideon is from the 9th house. Now, we are reading kind of from the perspective of Gideon, who has grown up entirely in the 9th house and has no understanding really of the world outside of 9th house. Each house is on their own, I don't want to call them planets because I don't think that they necessarily are planets, but on their own body in space, whether I guess that's like an asteroid, a planet or whatever. And Gideon has been trying to escape her entire life. She's not actually of 9th house. When she was a baby, her mother's like kind of dead body floated onto this planet or whatever where the 9th house is located. She had a baby in like a little preservation thing. It reminds me a lot of the thing, do you know in Death Stranding, the main character who is Norman Reedus, he's got like that little incubator with a baby in it. It reminds me of something like that. So Gideon was raised amongst the 9th house. Now the 9th house is actually dwindling and is essentially ruled by the daughter of the rulers, which is Harrow. And Gideon hates her and she hates Gideon. Gideon is kind of like an indentured servant and she has been desperately trying to escape to join the army, but the leaders of 9th house will not let her. So this book starts off where she is planning on, like she's planned an escape to get to join the army, which I think is called the cohort. Now Harrow intercepts her, stops her and tells her that she will let her go free, but she wants her to do this favor for her, which is to come down and listen to this thing that the 9th house is being gathered for. And the thing that the 9th house is being gathered for is actually a competition to become the next lictors. Now I'm not entirely sure what the lictors are. Okay, it explains it in like simple terms in the synopsis. It's an immortal, all-powerful servant of the resurrection, but no necromancer can ascend without their cavalier. So Harrow needs Gideon to go along with her to be her cavalier, and Gideon goes begrudgingly on the promise that if Harrow does become a lictor, then Gideon will have like power, like the world or the universe, I guess, will have no bars for her because of her status in this society. So along with a representative from each of the 9 houses, maybe 8 because I'm not sure if the first house gets involved, they all go to the location of the first house, which is this like almost crumbling abandoned palace, and they begin the training competition series of trials to become lictors. However, they don't really have, it's not like a series of trials in like this is your first trial, this is your second trial. They arrive and they're given a cryptic clue and they just kind of have to figure out where to go from there. So where I'm up to, they've pretty much just got to grips with what they're doing and a wrench has been thrown into the plot. I think that the audio narration is definitely a good way to go. I obviously can't say what this would be like if I wasn't listening to the audio, whether I would be much more confused, but the humor and the tone is really well represented in the audiobook. I do recommend reading along, at least for me. If you're somebody who listens to more sci-fi and fantasy audio, you might be all right. As you guys know, I'm not the biggest audio listener, and especially for these genres, I do tend to have to read along, and it's definitely the case with this one. But I am having a really good time with it. I don't know anything about Tamsin Muir's writing because I think she has written something outside of this series, but I haven't read anything by Tamsin Muir. But I'm hoping that the plot gets kind of like twisty and intricate, just because that's my preference with stories. We have a really complex, well thought out world here. We have really dynamic characters. I do really like Gideon. Gideon reminds me a lot of Severo, but I think my favorite right now is Harrow, and I know there's a character in this series called Nona that everybody loves that I'm very excited to meet at some point because she hasn't turned up yet, as far as I'm aware anyway, unless she has a known as a nickname and she has a more formal name. Because of the like elements we have in play here, I'm hoping that there is going to be some kind of like really intricate plot to go along with the complex world and the dynamic characters. I need to go get myself dressed and I need to finish packing. I feel very, very underprepared to leave, so I need to kind of rectify that. But as I am reading this and listening along to the audio, I don't think that Gideon is the ideal book for me to take to the Lake District this weekend, because like, I'm going with my friends, so I don't want a book that I have to rely on listening to the audiobook at the same time as reading along, because that's like quite antisocial. I do have to sit in the back on the car journey there, which is 3 hours, because Brie gets car sick, but she is a lot more settled and she tends not to be sick if somebody's like in the back with her, constantly like reassuring her. So I'm planning on reading at least a little bit on the way there, because like listening to the audiobook will offset my motion sickness, because I don't always have to look at the book. But that doesn't solve the problem of what I'm going to be reading this weekend, and I don't anticipate doing the most reading, but it's a cabin holiday, so like I do want something to read, so we're going to do an extra roll to pick me a physical read. I am a little bit fearful of this side of the board because we have some tricky prompts around here, and I just want a fun holiday read, you know, like I don't want the board to be mean to me, but I feel like because of that, this is the time that the board will be mean to me because it's really inconvenient. So let's see what prompt number 10 has in store. Wow, okay. That is Michael Myers. I'm really tempted to do a poll for this one because I am dithering. I have options. I have 3 that I'm really torn between, 2 that I guess are more, not priorities, but that I'm more likely to pick up than others. I have Shadow of Night by Deborah Harkness, which I really like to Discovery of Witches, so I do really want to get into this one, and I don't think there's too many opportunities for me to get this into Spookopoly. I mean, we only have what, like 12 days left, 13 including today, so it's still 2 weeks if I'm being honest, but there's less options to get this onto a Spookopoly prompt, aside from I think for the Witches one I think would be the best bet. I also have All of Our Demise by Amanda Foody and Christine Lynn Herman. This one is the second book in a duology, so if I read this, the series is done. It's contemporary fantasy, it's also YA, so not too taxing, because I have to think as well that I am reading this alongside Gideon, and with that being more dense, I want something that's a little bit easier. I don't have any non-fantastical sequels that fit into the spooky genre, so it is going to have to be something fantastical. Then my third one, the one that I'm kind of leaning the most towards, is The Shadow Cabinet by Juno Dawson. Once again, contemporary fantasy. This one is the biggest of the 3. I've also just hauled this, so once again, am I going to be prioritizing something that I've just hauled over something that I've had for a while and haven't gotten around to yet? I did start this. Did I start this for Bookoplathon last year? I know that my mental health was really bad. It does have a Bookoplathon bookmark in. I know that my mental health was really bad when I started this, and it's the same for Misrule by Heather Walter, which I guess would also be an option, but I'm not as hyped about that one. I wasn't reading at all very much. I was really struggling, so I read like a chapter and then I put it down. If I did do a poll, it would be a very quick one, because obviously I'm leaving in like 2.5 hours. Now I still have to take Hamilton and drop him off at the cat sitter as well, so like decisions need to be made. If I do a poll though, I'm wondering whether All of Our Demise would absolutely be out of the window. This one I have more options to put it on into a Spookopoly prompt, because I have Witches or Purple, and I know even though it's big, like it's not going to be a slow read, and the text is actually quite big as well. Should I just go with this one? All of them are productive because they're sequels. There's none that's like better than the others. I might just go with The Shadow Cabinet and hope that I can land on either Broken Mirrors for this one, Michael Myers again, or Witches for this one. Although I do have other witchy books as well, so who knows if that would even make it to the top of the list. Is this a decision? Do I know how to make those? I think I'm gonna do a poll, because per the rules of Bookopoly, my patrons do get to vote on one of the books that I read every single month, and as of yet I have not done a poll, so I'm gonna put a quick one up and see what they say. I definitely think it's going to be one of these 2. This is super popular in general, and this is new and more relevant. I think that this one is going to be out of the running, but I will put it on there just in case, and we'll see what the verdict is before I leave. It's 11:20. We are now packing the car, and I need to finish packing up my stuff, including like my camera and my books, so it's time to revisit the poll. I think I set it to end at past, so it's got 10 minutes left on it, but I doubt too much is going to change in those 10 minutes. So the winner with 59% of the vote is, as I kind of suspected, The Shadow Cabinet by Juno Dawson. I don't feel like I expected it to win so dramatically. I expected The Shadow of Night to kind of be a little bit more popular, but that one came in at 26%, and then All of Our Demise, as I predicted, was only 16. So if you guys don't know what this one is, this is the sequel to Her Majesty's Royal Coven, which is a adult contemporary fantasy set in West Yorkshire. It's following 4 witches that were part of the same coven. They grew up together and there was a war. I can't remember how long before the start of the book it is, but it was witches versus warlocks, and since the end of the war all of the witches have gone their own separate ways. Some of them have settled down to like almost like a human life. Some of them live a calmer life where they use their magic for things like healing. Like one of them's a vet and she uses her magic to make her better at her job. One of them has gone to set up her own coven in London, and the other one is, I think the term is the High Priestess, but essentially the leader of Her Majesty's Royal Coven, which is like the governing body of witches. So a prophecy has been discovered in this world that the Sullied Child is going to appear and herald the rise of a demon that will bring about the end of days. So our main character is contacted by her friend that's the High Priestess of Her Majesty's Royal Coven because they believe that they found the Sullied Child, and it's the main character called, she's not called Vivian, Neve. So Neve is contacted by the High Priestess because, what's the High Priestess called? Why am I struggling so much? Helena? Yeah, the Sullied Child won't talk to anybody, they won't communicate at all, so Helena, who is the High Priestess, contacts Neve and asks her if she will kind of take on this child and see if she can get them to communicate to kind of rehabilitate them and stop them from causing this demon to bring about the end of days. I loved the first book a lot more than I expected. I also really like that it's set in Yorkshire. Like I don't live in West Yorkshire where this is set, I live in East Yorkshire, but it was kind of refreshing, and Juno Dawson is also from West Yorkshire, so I thought that the dialect was on point, the atmosphere was on point. It was also like the end of the first book was super cinematic. I realized when I was talking to a friend recently though that I've forgotten the finer points of the end of Her Majesty's Royal Coven, so I think I am going to read a summary to refresh myself before I dive in. Definitely not going to be finishing this weekend. I did say it's a quick read, but it's also 500 pages and I doubt I'm going to get quite that much reading done, but I will definitely make a start and we will evaluate like where I'm up to by the time I get home on Sunday.
Smells good.
Oh, yes, you are. Okay. She doesn't want to be friends.
Girl's getting her own personal photo shoot here. Nice.
Good afternoon, my guys. I have very little reading to update you on. I 100% did not need to bring a second book with me because I did listen to quite a bit of Gideon in the car on the way here. I'm like 250-ish pages into it now, I think. While I'm still enjoying it, it does have like a murder mystery element to the plotline now that I'm not really vibing with, and because like the whole book is these like small amount of people, like say, is it maybe 16 people, maybe slightly more, in this like abandoned palace or like abandoned castle. When things are starting to go wrong, it does have that very like isolated murder mystery vibe, which is one like we've talked about before with various books. Like it's not something that I'm a big fan of. And in terms of the shadow cabinet, I have started it. I started it yesterday afternoon after we went for that really long walk around Grasmere. That was exhausting. I say really long, it was 3 hours, but it was stormy, it was windy, and it was one of those where like we got back and I kind of just wanted to curl in a ball and sleep. So I did read, but very slowly, and I'm only like 50 pages into that. So my attention is still very much set on Gideon, with me not having sunk into the shadow cabinet very much yet. So I think I'm gonna maybe try and read a few pages now while Beth's making us lunch. She's making us lentil soup. I also really love how this vlog is essentially outdoors and then clips of people making me food, which I ain't mad about, let me tell you. I am not mad. So I just wanted to pop in and give you guys a little bit of an update of where we're at. The rest of the plan for today is to head out to Ambleside, maybe do the waterfall walk before we go for dinner at a pub a little bit later on after we've had lunch. So we'll settle for an hour or so and then head back out for the afternoon. And when we get back, I think we're going to be carving pumpkins and then spending the remainder of the evening in the hot tub before we leave. We have to check out by 10 AM tomorrow. So I'm having a good time. I'm very sleepy, but like in the best way. And I'm excited to just cozy up and chill, really, which is what this trip was about.
Let's go back. So what's left?
3, 4, 5. There's enough for everyone minus one person to have an extra one.
You have the chair that we don't those there?
Oh, you know you have
We just got home like 30 minutes ago and we've unpacked, and I actually just really want to put my pajamas on and curl up in a ball for the rest of the night. But I have to go pick up Hamilton in the window, like the pickup window starts at 5. So I still have over an hour to wait. So I'm gonna start off spending that time by giving you guys a little bit of a haul of the books that I picked up while I was away, because of course I did. Actually, before I get into the books, which are now very dusty because of the bag that I brought them home in, this is actually book related. I picked up a new jigsaw, and I actually collect these puzzles by this artist, but I normally collect the cat ones. This is the first dog one that I've had, and it is Barks Books. The artist of these is Linda Jane Smith, and my mum picked up a cat one like years ago, and ever since I've been collecting them. I do normally pick them up secondhand, and it's like a little bit of a game when I go into a charity shop to see if I can find any, but because this was a bookshop, I thought I would pick it up. And we got this from the Book and Jigsaw Lounge in Kirkby Lonsdale, so I'm actually really excited to do that. And because I have the Slayer audio, I'm planning on making candles tomorrow, so I listen to it while I'm making candles, but depending on how much I have left, which will probably still be a considerable amount of hours, I think I may start a jigsaw. We'll see, because I do know I have one on my puzzle board that I started. If you guys who've been here a while remember last year, I spent a lot of time doing jigsaws and listening to audiobooks while Brie was a puppy, because she could not be in any other room apart from the kitchen due to her being an absolute menace, but I didn't want to leave her alone all the time. And I dropped a piece of that puzzle, which was one of the cat ones, on the floor, and she ate it, and I haven't brought myself to go back to that puzzle and either continue or dismantle it since, because I know that it's now incomplete. But moving on to the books. One is one that Beth was unhauling, and I briefly, like I mentioned it in passing, and she said, actually, this is on my unhaul stack, do you want me to bring it for you? So I was like, yes. And that is How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. I think the reason we were talking about this is I said that I had a couple of authors that I won't buy any more books by them until I finish the one that I've got. Grady Hendrix is one of those authors. I have A Southern Book Club's Guide to Vampires that I haven't read, and Sylvia Moreno Garcia is another one. I have Mexican Gothic that I haven't read by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. Both of them are authors that I have read books by previously, but I just, every time I read one, I buy a new one, and I won't buy a new one until I've read the one that I've got. But as Beth was unhauling this, it's like a Forbidden Planet edition with like a signed tipping page and a navy sprayed edge. I obviously snapped it up, but I actually have no idea what this one's about, but I imagine somebody's trying to sell a haunted house, which actually reminds me a lot of the Olivia Blake book Masters of Death, although I know that this is going to be a very, very different vibe. And then in, I think it was Ambleside, there was a bookstore, and inside they didn't really have a fantasy section, which is really confusing as to why outside, you know them rolling carts that they have in libraries, they had a lot of those, like 5 of them outside with American fantasy paperback and hardback books for £2 each, or 3 for £5. Now they did have a lot of stuff that I would have gotten if it wasn't book 3 in a series. If I could find book 1, I would have picked up a lot more. So I only got 2 books, but the first one is Splintered by A.G. Howard. You guys may remember if you watch my TBR, this one is my Patreon pick for October. So when I saw it there, I was like, you know what, for £2, because I think it's on I think it's on Scribd. So I was gonna read it that way, but I was like, for £2 I'll get myself a physical copy, because I much prefer to read, like I do read ebooks from time to time, but I would prefer to read a physical copy over an ebook. This one is like a YA Alice in Wonderland, not retelling. I think the main character is like a descendant of Alice in Wonderland. Her mother ended up in an institution because of like having the Alice gene, because her great-great-grandmother is Alice, and Alice told Lewis Carroll she was having strange dreams, which inspired him to write Alice in Wonderland. But she finds out that maybe like her family aren't mad, and the underworld is actually potentially a real place. So I am going to be reading this very soon, in the next couple of months. I'm like halfway through my actual core TBR for the month, so I feel like I'm definitely going to be getting to it next month if I don't fit it into this month. And then I picked up book 1 in a series that I've heard very good things about, but I could literally tell you nothing about it. And it's one of those where like I've read the synopsis and literally right over my head. I'm very bad at synopses for fantasy if I don't have any context to associate it with, because you know you have all of the fantastical like people, names, races. But it is Engines of Empire by R.S. Ford, which is the first book in the Age of Uprising series. This is my favourite format of book. They actually had the 3rd Lycanius trilogy book in this edition by James Islington, which I really want. Oh, he's actually blurbed this one, which I really would have liked to have, but I have the UK paperbacks of the first 2 books, and even though this is my preferred format, I wouldn't just have 1 book in this edition like by choice, so I decided to leave it. But yeah, they had tons of stuff like that, book 3 in series, that I would have read or would have picked up if they'd have had book 1 in these editions, which are my favourite. So I have no idea why they have so many US fantasy paperbacks outside for £2 when they have full price books inside, and none of them are really fantasy. But I wasn't complaining, and it was very exciting. I could have bought a lot more, so I'm happy that I managed to restrain myself. So that was my little Lake District book haul. I have read some in the car. I really did not need to pick a second book, and like I'm not mad about it because I do really want to read The Shadow Cabinet, but I am sad that I'm not going to be able to roll again for a little while, because I do have to finish The Shadow Cabinet before I can do an extra roll. But I do think I was contemplating wrapping this vlog up here and just like vegetating for the rest of the night, but I have almost finished Gideon the Ninth. I've just listened to another, I think about 100 pages in the car on the way back home, and I'm now on page 374, so I only have 70 pages left, I think. So how long is that in audio? 1 hour and 22 minutes, so that is definitely doable. I'm enjoying it a little bit more again now, because while we do still have this like murder mystery-esque thing going on, there's things that are coming to ahead in the plot that hint at a larger plot, which I'm finding really interesting. And I don't know for sure, but I think I might know who Nona is, and that makes a lot of sense based on what I thought very early on in the book. Obviously I'm talking about this in no spoilers terms, but I have a feeling of like how things are going to develop there. I only know of the characters of Gideon, Harrow and Nona in this series because they are the characters that are the titles of all of the books that have been released. But I'm a little bit concerned because obviously we have this like murder mystery kind of thing going on, and all of these people have come together to learn to be a lictor, and I like some of these characters, but I don't hear people talking about them, so I don't know what happens to them, but I feel like it's not good, and I'm sad because I like some of them. So yeah, the plot is thickening, and I imagine it's going to continue to do so in the next 70 pages. I feel like this is going to be one of those series where this book has a more contained plot that leads into a wider plot, and that's what we're getting hints of at this stage. But I'm very excited to see like what I think the wider plot is going to be by the time I get to the end of this book. So if I don't check in with you guys tonight, I will check in with you guys tomorrow morning, wrapping up my thoughts on this, because with an hour and 20 minutes of the audiobook at 4 p.m, don't think I'm going to struggle to finish this one today. Good morning, guys. Last night I went and picked Hamilton up, got some takeout on the way home, had a bath, finished my book, and then played Divinity with Curtis for the rest of the night. So I do have my thoughts to share with you on Gideon, but I just wanted to let you know that the candle restock that I started working on last week, I'm going to make, so I made around half of the candles that are going to be in that restock last week, and then today, which will be in next week's vlog, I'm going to make the other half. So I can confirm that the restock for the candles is going to be on Friday the 27th of October, so the day after this vlog goes live at 7 p.m. I just wanted to let you guys know, because I know with vlogs not going up quite in real time, like obviously there's a delay between the vlog and it being posted, I never get to tell you guys in advance in a video like when the restock's going live, so you guys are always kind of missing them going up. So that's the date that I've decided on, because I'm pretty sure that I can do another 70 candles today. It will only take me a few hours. For my reading this week, I think I've done pretty well, considering I was away from Thursday to Sunday and I read across Friday and Saturday. I read like 50 pages. I'm really proud of my progress. I'm really impressed that I managed to get through Gideon this week, because from the way that people were talking about this, I thought that this was going to be a struggle. And I will say that listening to the audiobook really eased along the process of reading this. I do feel like I would have been a lot more lost if I was just reading this physically, but Moira Quirk does such a good job with the narration, the inflection, the tone, the accents and voices for differentiating between characters, that I would 100% recommend the audiobook, but definitely read along at the same time if you're someone like me anyway that doesn't retain information through audio the best way, because I definitely would have been lost if I hadn't done like a combination of the two. But I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 stars. The end of this, I wasn't expecting it to go the way that it went, and I'm surprised that I haven't been spoiled for this book and that the end of this took me completely by surprise. That being said, I have some theories about how this book ended based on some clues that we got a little bit earlier on. So while I am shocked by the end, I'm not as shocked. Like, I don't feel like this is as cataclysmic as it seems at the end of this book. I'm so excited to get into Harrow. I ordered it last night. I've ordered a hardback. This one's the Illumicrate edition. I don't care enough to collect the rest of the Illumicrate editions, because Illumicrate have also remade the Gideon set. I actually prefer these with the black sprayed edges to the ones with the coloured edges. And trying to find these, like, I looked on eBay and they're expensive, and the coloured ones are even more so. And they're not even the ones that I want, and I also don't want a full set. I just want the 2 books. I'm not that invested. I'll just buy these standard hardbacks, because from the spines, like, the covers aren't unique, so they'll still match. It's just they won't have a sprayed edge and they won't be signed, and to be honest, signatures mean less than nothing to me really when it comes to a book, unless I've attended the signing myself and like got it signed. But yeah, 4 stars, really enjoyed this. I get why people say that it's confusing, because like I still don't have necessarily a full picture of the world, but I feel like we're getting there. Like, this book feels like here's a self-contained plot in this world, and while you're exploring this plot, you'll learn little bits about the world, the society, what's going on here, and you'll have like a bigger picture or a more full picture going forward. I definitely gained more understanding of the world and the society throughout this book, to the point where like the more I read, the more invested I was getting, because it turns from this kind of like self-contained plot into something that seems like it's going to be so much bigger, but something that's also new. Like, the setting of Harold the Ninth is going to be new, and I'm intrigued because I feel like it's almost going to have a school setting, which is exciting to me. But still, like, Nona, I think the 4th book in this series, which I think is going to be the last one, is going to be called Electo the Ninth. So mysterious, because I have no idea who that is, but I'm dying to find out. I'm actually, because this is one of my most anticipated releases of the year, which is now my current read, I'm actually sad that I'm reading this right now, because I want to read Harrow the Ninth, but here we are. So my copy of that should arrive tomorrow, I think. Realistically, I'm probably not going to get to it anytime soon, but it's nice to have it, because if I don't have it, then I definitely won't get to it at all, because we know I like to prioritize my physical reads where possible. In terms of my reading for this week as a whole, let's do the weekly wrap up. I have no idea at this point how far into this I was at the start of the week, but I finished For You and Only You by Caroline Kepner. This was a little bit of a disappointment. It fulfilled the stabby prompt. I then moved on to the Black Cat prompt, which, I mean, we knew it was going to happen at some point, and I had to break the spooky / TBR we've been going with for the Spookoplathon and pick up I Had That Same Dream Again by Yoru Sumino, which I really enjoyed. It's a contemporary manga, and I gave it 4 stars. Then we landed on Jigsaw, and I picked up Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. This one was my Patreon pick for September, I think. This one was Ina's pick. Thank you so much, Ina. I really enjoyed this, and once again, 4 stars. And then we preemptively rolled and landed on Michael Myers, which is currently the only prompt that I've landed on more than once throughout this game. And I picked the Shadow Cabinet for Juno Dawson, which is the second book in the HMRC series, and I made it 68 pages in. Like I said earlier, this is not going to be a slow read. The text is big, the chapters are short, and now that I'm prioritizing it, I'm aiming to have it done in a couple of days. I also listened to, I think, like 3 episodes out of, is it 9, 7 or 9 of the Slayers audio, which currently isn't in for a prompt, but because I'm making candles all day today, I do feel like I'm going to make a very big dent in that as well, which you will obviously hear about in next week's vlog. So yeah, I'm pretty impressed with my progress for the week. For next week, it is the last vlog for the Spookoplathon. I can't believe we're here already. I've had such a great time. I really just don't want it to end. And it is going to be a slightly longer than a week vlog because there's 9 days left of the month. So I'm just going to put them all together. But I'm hoping to get round the board one more time, which might be a little bit ambitious. But 9 days is almost a third of the month. And I've currently read 9 books in the first 2/3 of the month. So theoretically, I could potentially read like another 4-ish books in the next 9 days if I put my mind to it. So we'll see how we finish off the month. I'm just having such a good time. Like, I want to make the most of the next 9 days. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. I do hope you've enjoyed it if you've made it this far. If you have, please don't forget to like if you liked it and subscribe if you wanna. And I'll see you guys next week. Bye!
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you're ready to go when nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.